Hey you, hello friend, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's Morbid makeup video. Before we get started, I would love it if you would join the Brat Pack by subscribing and clicking that bell. I put out new videos every week that involve true crime and beauty combined, and I would love to hang out with you. That sounds like a really good time, doesn't it? I think so. And I hope you think so as well. So today's video is one that I'm super excited to be filming for you guys today. Well, excited might seem a little bit morbid because we are talking true crime here, but this is a case that I've been watching for a while and watching developments, trying to wait for things to happen in for a while, and we finally got a huge break in the case this month. The month that I'm filming it, we got a huge break and we got an arrest after 20 years. 20-year cold case finally got an arrest this month. What? Today we're going to be talking about the disappearance of 17-year-old Alissa Turney and how the police totally dropped the ball on her case in treating it like a runaway instead of a missing persons case, which in turn allowed the man who is allegedly responsible for her disappearance, her own stepfather, get away with it for 20 years. Just free, living his life on the street like nothing happened. So, with all that said, let's just go ahead and get in this video. Let's get into it, huh? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so Alissa was born April 23rd, 1984, which makes her an Aries. And the way people describe her in her teenage years, she was definitely an Aries. Lots of Aries energy from her. So when Alissa was just 3 years old, her mother, whose name was Barbara, she met and married a man named Michael Turney. Michael had 3 children from a previous marriage and Barbara had 2, so the couple went ahead and melded their families together and their lives together to just be one big old happy family living together. Michael then adopted Alissa and the couple then had another child, because 5 was not enough, they wanted to have 1 together, and this was a baby girl that they named Sarah Turney, Alyssa's little sister. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit to when Alissa is 9 years old. It is the mid-90s and her mother Barbara is diagnosed with cancer and unfortunately dies shortly after at the young age of 34. By this time, the older children were already moved out of the house, so that left Alissa and her younger sister Sarah to be raised alone by Michael Turney. Now Sarah describes her sister Alissa just wonderfully as strong, caring, and kind. She was known to spread happiness anywhere she went and was one of those kids that was just super spontaneous, was always down to do anything, a real like yes man type of energy. Just like, oh, you wanna just like, you know the type, just down for whatever. I'm not the type, but I know the type, and they're a fun type. It's an Aries type. That's that fire energy that I do not possess. Alissa cared about her boyfriend more than she cared about school. Obviously, she liked to go to the mall and hang out with friends, just walk around. She was a tomboy and liked Tool and Eminem and Limp Bizkit and Marilyn Manson. She was just like the typical teenager. A little rebellious, as we all were, or at least I was. She would ditch class to go and drink and, you know, same. And she was a bit of like a hyper kid, lots of energy. Again, same. But Sarah, her sister, says that towards the time that she disappeared, she was starting to calm down. She was starting to kind of chill out with her energy. She was starting to get a little more girly. She used to wear like those big juggalo pants, you know, the pants. Well, she got rid of those and got like more fitted pants, started doing her makeup, wearing sparkly silver eyeshadow, you know, just coming into her own. It's funny. I feel sort of like that could describe me. I even to the point of the sparkly silver eyeshadow, I remember I had this little duo, sparkly silver eyeshadow and a sparkly black eyeshadow, and I would do half silver, half black every day when I was in high school. Well, maybe that was junior high. No, that's probably high school. Doesn't matter. Moving on. So you just heard the way Sarah would describe Alissa. Well, if you were to ask her stepfather, Michael Turney, we're talking about a totally different kid here. If you were to ask Alyssa's stepfather how Alissa was, when she was 17, she was a problem child and she was out of control. Additionally, he would tell anyone who would listen that Alissa had ADD. She had a learning disability. She wasn't smart enough to understand how the things that she did would affect other people. She wasn't smart. She had special needs. These are things that Michael would say, but these are also things that were never actually diagnosed. These were just his opinions. He didn't think that she had the mental capacity to keep herself safe in social situations, so he really needed to be on her and be watching everything she did and to be monitoring her. He needed to give her special attention. So at the time that Alyssa went missing, she was 17 years old. She was working a part-time job at Jack in the Box whenever she wasn't attending class at Paradise High School, as I believe a junior she was. The day she was last seen, which was May 17th, 2001, was actually the last day of school before summer break. And that morning, her father dropped her off at school, which was normal. But what wasn't normal is that Michael Turney actually picked Alyssa up early from school that day at around 10:30 a.m., even though it was already an early dismissal day, being as it was the last day of school. Before leaving, Alyssa went over to her boyfriend's woodshop class and like popped her little head in and was like, "Hey, my dad's picking me up early. I'll see you later tonight," because the two of them were planning to attend an end of the year party. And she said goodbye and she left school with her stepfather that day. So in case you're wondering why Michael only picked up Alyssa and not 12-year-old Sarah as well, because when I first heard about this case, before I like really looked into all the details, I was wondering the same thing. I was like, that's already super suspicious. But apparently Sarah, it was also her last day of school. She was in 7th grade and it was her last day. So her class went on a field trip to a water park where she wouldn't get back from the water park till about 3:30 p.m., hours after Michael picked up Alyssa. So what happened after Michael picked up Alyssa is only can ever really be known by Michael and Alyssa herself. But since Alyssa's not here to tell her side of the story, what I'm going to tell you now is what Michael says happened to Alyssa. Michael says that after he picked up Alyssa, the two got lunch and then went back home to their home. Michael says that when they got back to the house, they started to argue because, seeing as it was the last day of school, Alyssa wanted to have more freedom over the summer. She wanted to be able to go wherever she wanted, whenever she wanted, with whomever she wanted, and she didn't want to have to be accountable to her stepfather. And I get why this would be a problem, obviously. I'm not a parent, but I mean, you want to know where your kids are. And Michael said he had a problem with this, and I'm gonna be quoting here something he said in an interview I watched with him. He said, and I quote, "As long as you're under my roof, you have to check in with daddy, because daddy is a nervous wreck if you don't." This line makes me cringe a lot. The idea of a stepfather referring to himself as daddy to a 17-year-old stepdaughter, to me is odd, but to be fair, I don't have a father, so my point of reference isn't there. So please let me know if that actually is strange, but for whatever reason, that line makes me uncomfortable. But anyways, Michael says that at this point, she stormed off to her room and he wanted to give her time to cool down. So he left to run some errands before going and picking up his 12-year-old daughter, Sarah Turney, leaving Alyssa at home alone. So Sarah Turney has said she doesn't know exactly what time it was when her father picked her up, but she does know, and we do know, that he was not there at the school to pick her up at 3:30 when she got back from her field trip. So she walked over to a friend's house to spend some time, and while there she had time to hang out and smoke a couple cigarettes before her father did pick her up. She remembers that when he picked her up, it was before nightfall, but probably not by much. So when he picked her up, he tossed her over his cell phone and he said, "Hey, call your sister. I can't get a hold of Alyssa." So she tried to call Alyssa and got no answer. So when the two got home, she went straight into Alyssa's room, and what she found to be very strange. Alyssa's backpack had all of the contents poured out onto the floor, which she considered to be odd because Alyssa was known to keep her room pretty tidy most of the time. And in addition, she saw Alyssa's cell phone left on her dresser, and next to that was a note. I will now read you that note. "Dad and Sarah, when you dropped me off at school today, I decided I really am going to California. Sarah, you said you didn't want me around. Look, you got it. I'm gone. That's why I saved my money. Dad, I took $300 from you. Alyssa." So when it comes to this note, experts have looked it over and they have determined that they believe it is Alyssa's handwriting, but there's no way to know when she actually wrote the note. And it seemed odd that Alyssa, in general, would plan to run away, especially after telling her boyfriend and her friends that she was going to be going to the end of the year party that night. But either way, that is what the note said. So Michael then called around to friends, family, whoever he thought might have seen her, but he didn't call the police that night, and there was no formal search done that night. You know, there was actually no formal search done ever, which is what we're gonna get into, which is the problem. So eventually, Michael did call the police and he reported that his daughter was a runaway, that she had run off to California to stay with an aunt. So his report to the police, the way he made it sound so casual, the way he seemed so unbothered, along with the existence of the note, the fact that it was the last day of school, and the fact that Alyssa was 17 years old, made police decide that this just was a simple runaway case. And the problem with that is once a case is classified as a runaway case and not a missing persons case, nothing is done. It's just not taken seriously. The police did not search for Alyssa. There was no bolo released. There was no Amber Alert released. Nothing at all was done. The police never even came to their house to do a formal report. And if they had come to the house, they would have noticed some things that were strange about the case right off the bat. They would see that Alyssa had $1,800 in her bank account. That was never touched. They would see that she had left without taking anything. No clothes, no jewelry, no makeup, nothing. No cell phone. She didn't take her phone. They would have seen that there were cameras everywhere on that property. So they could have been like, oh, let's see the footage of the last time she was seen. And then Michael would have been like, oh, I don't have that footage. And that would have been a big red flag. If they would have done any type of investigation, they would have seen there were a lot of red flags when it came to Alyssa's disappearance. If police had looked, they would have seen that Alyssa had a pretty bad relationship with her stepfather. He was known to be overprotective to the point of being obsessive. He would monitor her closely. In addition to the cameras that we discussed, which were outside of the house, inside of the house, which one of the cameras at least was hidden inside of a vent where she didn't know it was, so he could film her without her consent. He would also show up at her job at Jack in the Box and just watch her. He would sit in his car and just film her through the window of her work, just doing normal work things. And he said that he was doing this just to ensure that she was there. And I've seen some of these videos and they're just so weird, dude. You can look them up, but they are really uncomfortable. And not only did he videotape her, but he recorded all of her phone calls. There was a device on their phone that every time you picked up the receiver, it started to record. So she just had no privacy at all. And there is a reason, allegedly, that Michael was such a creep to his stepdaughter, Alyssa. Alyssa had confided in several people that her stepfather had been sexually abusing her starting at a very young age. She told some friends, her boyfriend, some family members, and at least one teacher that her father would drive her out to the desert and try to molest her, and when she would refuse, he would kick her out of the car and make her walk home alone. She told stories about waking up in the night bound with him on top of her. And before her mother Barbara died, her mother had even taken her to the doctor's office to be examined for evidence of sexual assault. But we don't know what the outcome of this examination was, but what we do know is that before Barbara died, she requested to her sister that Alyssa not be left alone with Michael Turney. But unfortunately, this was only verbal and not in writing, so it wasn't enforceable. And on top of all of that, when Alyssa was just 9 years old after her mother had died, she told her teacher, "My father is having sex with me." This teacher's name was Diane, and did Diane report this abuse? No. Instead, she went to Michael Turney himself and confronted him herself. This would be when Michael would tell Diane that Alyssa wasn't bright, she wasn't a smart girl, she got confused. She thought that kissing a boy was having sex. Now, why would this teacher not report this incident? It's her job to report things like this, to get Alyssa help. Why would she instead go to Alyssa's accused abuser? Well, that's because Miss Diane, who was married at the time, she was having an affair with Michael Turney. It makes me so mad. Additionally, Michael's nephew, named David, had been staying with the family for a couple of months, around the mid-90s. And one night while everybody was asleep, he decided he wanted to watch a movie. He was still awake, so he popped in a VHS that was labeled Dr. Dolittle, and what he saw disturbed him greatly. He saw two girls naked from the waist up with newspapers covering their face, not moving, with Michael Turney just sitting in the room with the girls. And he says that he did not need to see their faces to be able to tell that these girls were Alyssa and one of Alyssa's friends that he recognized. David packed up his stuff and left, never returning to the house. And Michael says that none of this is true, that David was a drunk that he had to kick out of his house. And Michael just denies it wholeheartedly. Michael denies all allegations, obviously. Michael continues to say he was just a normal father with a problematic teenager, and all fathers are protective of their daughters. That's normal. Nothing weird going on here, right? But Alyssa's experience with Michael Turney was completely different than Sarah's experience with Michael Turney, who, remember, Sarah is his biological daughter. So where Alyssa was constantly supervised, micromanaged, and unallowed to go to any parties or any get-togethers where drinking might occur, Sarah had total freedom, to the point that when Sarah was 17, the same age that Alyssa was while she was going through this tyranny with Michael Turney, he allowed Sarah's boyfriend to move into the house, and he bought them a mini fridge for their room that he filled with beer. No problem, daughter of mine. You and your boyfriend have all the beers and sleep together under my roof, not a problem. Which, you know, I don't have a huge issue with. Some parents are more lenient, but he wasn't the same with each daughter is the point. The experience of the two daughters was so different that Sarah was jealous of the attention that Alyssa got from Mike. Mike devoted all of his time to Alyssa 24/7, always around her. It's all he cared about, and he just let Sarah do whatever she wanted and didn't pay her any attention. So apparently when Alyssa went missing, Mike downplayed this completely to the police. She was just a runaway. She was just mad at him. No big deal. This is just what teenagers do, right? But he was acting totally different about the situation when it came to Sarah and the rest of their family. He was frantic. He was freaking out. The police weren't doing anything to help him. They weren't helping him find his daughter. He was portraying himself as this frantic, distraught father, just trying so hard to find his daughter, all at the same time telling the police it's no big deal, don't worry about it, she's just mad. He complained about the police not doing anything, but whenever he talked to the police, he acted like they didn't need to be doing anything. Nothing was needed because she just ran away. Mike would tell his family that if they wouldn't help, he'd be his own detective. He'd go out and pass out flyers, and he'd make several trips to California to search for Alyssa. He would bring Sarah on these trips to California, and he'd leave her in the hotel room and then say that he was going out to search the bad parts of California to see if anybody had seen her. So, a week after Alyssa went missing, a call came into the house at about 5 a.m. that Mike claims was Alyssa. He says that she was yelling at him and cussing at him, blah, 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 then she hung up. So, this should have been easy to prove, right? Because he had all those cameras and he had that thing where you pick up the phone and it starts recording. So, this should be easy to prove that it was Alyssa, right? Wrong. Every call that came into the Turney house was recorded. Sarah says that every call that has ever come into that house has been recorded since before she was even born. But this call that Mike says was Alyssa, that he says is proof that she ran away, was not recorded. It just didn't work. It malfunctioned somehow. And this was the only call that Alyssa would ever make. She didn't call her boyfriend, she didn't call any of her friends, she didn't call her sister. She called Mike Turney, who apparently she didn't like and was running away from. And of course, it wasn't recorded. So we can't prove it was her, and we can't disprove it was her. So that call was a week after Alyssa went missing, but an even more interesting phone call was made from the Turney house a week before Alyssa went missing. So a week before Alyssa went missing, Michael Turney himself made a call to CPS, okay? And you know what he said when he called CPS? He said, "If my daughter Alyssa calls and says I am molesting her, please disregard it. She wants a car and I won't get her one, so she's mad." What the hell? Dude, this guy is ass bananas, and who would ever do that? And the CPS worker who took the call, I'll never understand why they believed him, why they didn't report this. There was just so many people that just failed this girl. But unfortunately, this case was treated as a runaway, so none of this stuff was investigated until years later. So from 2001 to 2006, this case went cold and there was zero investigation done at all. The police did nothing in that time. The only reason this case even did get looked at is because in 2006, a Florida convict by the name of Thomas Heimer, he actually admitted to murdering Alyssa. Heimer had been convicted in 2003 of murdering another girl, but now He was claiming to have not only killed Alyssa, but claiming to be a serial killer who had killed 21 women. But unfortunately, Heimer's, well, I guess fortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but either way, Heimer was found pretty quickly to not be credible because a lot of the things that he was saying along with his confession just wasn't true. He admitted, for example, to killing a girl who turned out to actually not even be dead, and the things he was saying about Alyssa just weren't ringing true to who she actually was. He claimed to have met Alyssa in a hotel room or at a hotel in 2001, and he claimed that she was a heroin addict who had some weird, specific sexual tendencies and desires. But when they started questioning people in Alyssa's lives, they realized that she had no problem or even experience with hard drugs. She smoked weed and drank as teenagers do, and that was it. And when they questioned her boyfriend about the sex stuff, he's like, no, she wasn't into that. I know her, I was with her, she wasn't into that. They also, just to be safe, gave Heimer a polygraph test, which he bombed completely. And he probably was just bored in jail. He'd been caught, he had nothing to do, and he just wanted to get some attention. So, you know, it's not unusual, unfortunately and strangely, it's not unusual for people to make false confessions. So, though that's a creep thing to do, and though he didn't end up killing her, because of this false confession in 2008, the case finally started being taken seriously for the first time ever. Because prior to this confession, none of her friends had ever been questioned. None of these people in her life had ever been questioned. And in going to confirm the things that Heimer was saying, they finally were interviewing people, and they were realizing some really weird stuff about Alyssa's case. For example, they found out that after Alyssa went missing, no one had ever talked to her again. No one. Nobody. They found out about the end of the year party that Alyssa had said that she was going to be attending, and they found out that Alyssa's friends thought it was super weird that she was planning to attend because her dad was so overprotective and didn't let her do anything with people. They found out that he was very possessive and that Alyssa was not even allowed to have close friends. They found out that anytime Alyssa tried to get close to anyone or started to get close to anyone, Michael would find a way to end that friendship, trying even to break up Alyssa and her boyfriend by, ooh, this one's so creepy. So, remember that camera in the vent I told you about? Well, he had recorded Alyssa through that vent making out with a boy that was not her boyfriend on the couch. So Michael showed a video of this to Alyssa's boyfriend saying, hey, she's cheating on you, to try to break them up. They also found out that no one in Alyssa's life, except for her boyfriend, even knew that Michael Turney had picked Alyssa up early that day. He had kept that information to himself. Even Sarah, Alyssa's little sister, had no idea that Michael had taken Alyssa out of school early that day. She didn't even find this out until an interview that Michael Turney did in 2009 about Alyssa's disappearance. He had just always kept that information from her and from the family, probably because it looked so bad. Mike stated that the reason he took Alyssa out of school early that day is because Alyssa had asked him to. He says that Alyssa was planning on breaking up with her boyfriend that day and wanted to be able to avoid him, so she wanted to leave early. But that makes no sense considering we know that she popped her little head into his class and let him know that she was leaving and that she had plans to see him later that night. So learning all of this information and learning the detail about Mike taking Alyssa out of school early that day got Sarah's wheels turning, and she started at that point to suspect that maybe her father was involved in her sister's disappearance. So now that the police were actually investigating, they discovered the surveillance equipment all over the Turney household. There were cameras showing the outside of the property, which is relatively normal. People do that. Maybe not so much back then, but people do that. But the cameras inside the house were considered suspicious because he was filming his daughter without her consent. You know, that's a bit odd, bud. So the police asked Michael, hey, can we please have the footage of the day that Alyssa went missing? We can look at it, we can see what she was wearing, we can see if there's anything, you know, anything of importance. And get this, Michael says that he already reviewed the footage. There was nothing of importance, so he taped over it. He taped over it. He still had the creepy video of Alyssa making out with a boy on the couch, mind you, but he recorded over the video that showed the last time his daughter was ever seen. So the man that records all the phone calls in the house doesn't have the recording of the alleged phone call from Alyssa. The man that records everything that goes on outside and inside his house doesn't have any video of the last time Alyssa was seen. The man that was so desperate, so frantic to find his daughter, refuses to be questioned, give a DNA sample, or take a polygraph test. So now the police want to search the Turney home, obviously, so they get a search warrant. So they wait until Michael comes out of the house because they wanted to get him out of the house for when they're searching. And they wait for him to come and check the mail. And when they stop him, he was packing a lot of heat to just walk to the mailbox, okay? He had 2 pistols, 7 magazines of ammo, and a knife on his person just to go check the mail. So they had not planned to actually arrest Mike that day. They were just gonna search the house. But after seeing everything that was on his body, and after searching his house and the things that they found in the house, they do arrest Mike this day, but not for the disappearance of Alyssa. Not for that. While searching the Turney household, they find 19 guns hidden in various places around the house. They find homemade silencers, and they find 26 pipe bombs. The neighborhood had to be evacuated so that the bomb squad could come in and clear the house. And along with the weapons, there were 2 notable strange documents recovered from the house. One was a sort of contract, which I guess Mike was known to make contracts with his kids, which I think is weird. My mom did that too. Mom, that's weird. She never did anything this weird, but little contracts. Right, but this contract was especially strange. It was written by Mike, signed by Alyssa, and officially notarized. And it was a piece of paper that said, "I, Alissa Turney, have never been molested by my stepfather, Michael Turney." Methinks doth protest too much, Mikey. In addition, they found a 98-page manifesto in which he described his plan to attack a union hall. Apparently, this is a union that he had worked for in like the 70s or the 80s that he claimed fired him and had been harassing him. And he was planning to attack this union hall and kill as many people as possible. And the police believed that he was actually going to do this based on first, like his truck was like ready for some shiz to go down, you know what I mean? Like it was ready to go. And also they found a safe in his house that contained a document in it that essentially stated that 2 members of the union had murdered Alyssa and that this attack he was planning to do was in retaliation for them killing his daughter. And it's believed that he suspected that police were kind of onto him, so he was going to take down anybody who had wronged him in the process before going to jail, is what is thought, which makes sense. Because all of a sudden, first she's missing, he hasn't seen her, and now 2 members of this union have been harassing you since the 70s and 80s and killed your daughter because you were going to be a whistleblower 20 years ago. It makes no sense, quite frankly. But either way, for this terrorist plan, he was arrested and given 10 years. And I feel like I need to give a little backstory because I feel like that whole union story feels a little bit random, but let me explain just real quick. Michael was an electrician by trade, and back in the 70s and 80s, he worked for and was involved with this union. He got injured while on the job, and he was put on disability, which I guess he claimed for the rest of his life. And he blamed the union for this injury, saying that there was a conspiracy to hurt him and then to fire him because he found out some shady stuff that was going on within the company, but he actually quit. He wasn't fired. So it literally makes no sense. And again, it seems like he just knew he was going down for Alyssa and wanted to just take whoever had hurt him along with him. I hope that made sense because it was a little confusing, but let me know if that didn't make sense so I know how bad I am at storytelling, I guess. So while Michael was in jail, this is when Sarah really started to believe that Michael was responsible for Alyssa going missing. She was putting the pieces together and realizing that, damn, he might have done this. And it was hard for her because she had such a different experience with Michael. This was her dad and she loved him and she described him as her best friend when she was growing up. So it was a long journey for her to get there, but the more she learned, the more her feelings changed. Sarah found out about the abuse. She found out about Michael picking Alyssa up early from school that day. She also found out that at one point Michael had actually had a duplicate truck. So he had one truck, and before Alyssa went missing, and then after Alyssa went missing, he went out and bought another truck, same make, same model, same color, and then sold the truck that he had when Alyssa was still around. Never told anyone about it, just did it. She realized how quickly Michael had just completely erased Alyssa after she disappeared. Within a couple of weeks of her leaving, he got rid of her cat and her ferret. When the family moved to a new house, he got rid of all of Alyssa's furniture that contained just her in it. She had painted little hand-drawn painted mushrooms on her dresser, and he just didn't take any of it with them when he left. He didn't want to bring any of her items. He just let Sarah go through and pick out some stuff that she wanted to keep and then left all of the rest. And when they moved into the new home, he never put up any of the family photos. He just completely erased her from existence. So this is when Sarah decides to dedicate all of her time and energy in getting her sister's case solved. She started an Instagram, which I myself have been following for a while, and it was just dedicated to information about her sister's case. She teamed up with other YouTubers to try to get her sister's story to as many eyes and ears as she could. She started a podcast of her own called Voices for Justice that not only focused on her sister Alyssa's case, but also other unsolved cases that needed more attention. She's done interviews, she attended CrimeCon, and she even created a TikTok account to try to get videos about her sister's disappearance to go viral to get more eyes on the case. And all of this exposure was incredibly important and vital, really, because police did not want to arrest Michael Turney. They did not want to put him on trial because they did not have a body. And this sends a dangerous message, in my opinion, because it's saying that if you want to get away with murder, all you have to do is hide the body real good, and then we're never going to do anything about it. So Michael Turney was eventually released from prison, where he was being held for that terrorist attack plan, and was living free in Phoenix, Arizona, not a care in the world. And after being released, Sarah has only seen her father once, and when she's met up with him, she's asked him, like, where's Alyssa, Dad? What happened to her? What do you know? What aren't you telling me? Sarah says to him, you've taken away one of arguably the most important people in my life. And his response to that, oh, I listened to it, it made me so mad. He said, oh, you and Alyssa were that close, huh? What a dick, am I right? Like, they were teenagers. She was 12 and Alyssa was 17. So of course they fought, and of course they butted heads. That's normal. Me and my sisters didn't get along like at all at that age. They didn't like me even a little bit. But now there's something incredibly valuable about being able to grow up with your sisters, because now me and my sisters are a lot closer. We're friends now. It's something that's very important, and Sarah missed out on all of that. So it's just such a little dick thing for her dad to say. And he has also said that if she wants more information, to visit him on his deathbed. Then finally, the nearly 20-year-old cold case finally is on its way towards getting justice, with Alyssa's allegedly sexually abusive stepfather being arrested in August of 2020. Just now. When I'm filming, it is August of 2020. This just happened. Sarah tweeted out, I'm shaking, I'm crying. We did it, you guys. He's been arrested. There has been, oh shit. My bad. So there's been one court appearance so far where Michael Turney, who is now 72, had requested a reduction in his bond, which the judge denied. Good for you, Judge Coco. You go, Judge Coco. And at the time I'm filming this, it's currently a Friday, and there's actually supposed to be another hearing today, right now. So there's going to be updates coming. You're going to want to keep your eye on this case if it interests you, because things are going to be coming out in the next couple weeks, months, years, depending on how long this takes, because it's happening right now. It's developing as we speak. And I am excited, quite frankly, to see how it plays out, because right now the police aren't even telling us what they have now that changed their minds and made them want to arrest Michael Turney. They haven't said if there's any new evidence that's been uncovered, though I sort of doubt it. I think it's more that, like, the media pushed it so hard that people want to know, people want to see him on trial, so that's why they're doing it. But either way, I'm excited to see how it plays out. I'm excited to see what they have on him. As Alyssa's body's never been recovered, there are lots of different theories as to where Michael would have hidden her if he did in fact kill her. Because right now he is innocent until proven guilty, though I will say that I do believe he did it, but that's just my opinion. Let me know yours down below. First, it's possible that Michael could have hidden Alyssa's body in the many, many miles of Arizona desert. Noise. Mike was very familiar with the desert. His family spent a lot of time there when the girls were growing up. They would go out shooting, you know, doing target practice and riding their go-karts. But Sarah thinks that it's much more likely that her father would have hid Alyssa's body under a shopping center that was under construction at the time that Alyssa went missing. The holes would have already been dug to lay the foundation of the shopping center, so that would have saved him the time and trouble of the actual burial. And then once the concrete was poured into the foundation, it's highly unlikely that anyone would ever search there. I can't see it ever being dug up again, so Alyssa and all of the secrets that Michael Turney is hiding would have been buried and gone forever. Sarah feels that her father is smart enough to know that Phoenix is expanding rapidly and that there's far less desert now than there ever has been, and that Alyssa would be far more likely to be found in a random patch of desert than she would buried under a shopping center that would be completely non-cost effective for, you know, the city to dig up, which is terrible, but I agree. And I'm just kind of curious of what you think about it. Do you think that Michael Turney did have something to do with it? And if you're somebody who doesn't, I'm very curious as to see why you think he wasn't involved and what you think an alternative theory would be, because I don't know, I've got like blinders on and all I can see is Michael Turney when it comes to this. Her running away just doesn't make any sense to me, because I thought, oh, maybe she ran away and ran into foul play, but you know, it doesn't make any sense to me. She didn't take anything with her. She didn't take any of her stuff. She didn't take any of her money. She made plans with her boyfriend and her friends for that night. It doesn't seem like what you do when you're gonna run away to California. And why would Michael pull Alyssa early out of school that day? I sort of, as gross as it is, I kind of suspect that maybe he pulled her out early so he'd have several hours alone with her to assault her. And maybe she said, you know, no, enough is enough. We're not doing this anymore. I am an adult. I am going to tell someone. Someone will listen. I'm done. And maybe he knew that she was serious, and maybe he knew that he couldn't get away with this forever, so he did what he thought he had to do to protect himself and his secrets. But these are all just theories, and these are all just my thoughts, my opinions, and my ideas. We don't know yet, but hopefully we will know what happened soon. And what we do know now is that due to the amazing drive and push and love and just grind of Alyssa's sister Sarah, we at least now have the chance to get justice for Alyssa. Okay guys, so that completes this video. I hope that it was informative and easy to follow, and of course I hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know of any cases you would like to see me cover. I have an ongoing list, but of course I'd love to add any of your ideas onto it, because I know that you are just filled with good ideas. And of course, make sure to join the Brat Pack by subscribing and hitting the bell, because I put out new videos every single week and I would love to hang out with you. You're tight, this is tight, and I hope very much to see you in my next video. Okay.